Hi, so as promised, here's a stretching routine. So I would never stretch before I work out, always stretching at the end of a workout. So you've got to warm up before you stretch. So if you're going to do this on its own, then warm up first. Either do 100 hops, around the kitchen or something like that, and then do your stretching when your body is warm, because you don't want to stretch cold muscle. Muscle needs to be warm to stretch. And remember, when you're stretching muscle and tendon primarily. Ligaments are there to stabilize rather than be stretched, and they don't have much stretching in them anyway. So what I'm going to do, some of it might be a little bit advanced, but I would recommend that you start, because everything begins with where you start, doesn't it? And then I've walked you through I will walk you through the various routines that I'm doing here, concentrating on quads, hamstrings, hip flexors, and then into your upper body, your back and your core. Just stretching out, learning what it means to stretch out muscle, because it's one thing to strengthen it, but you don't want it to be, muscle bound or anything like that. And you do need to keep the length in your muscles and your tendons. Okay, so enjoy the video. Hi there, so what we've got now in this video, we've got a stretching routine. This is the one I do on a regular basis, always at the end of a workout. I will throw out the mat and do my stretching, because I would never stretch before my workout, but I would always stretch after. So if you're going to do a stretching routine and you're going to do it on its own, warm up first. Hop 100 times, or walk briskly, or do something that's going to warm up your body, because you don't want to stretch with a cold body. The idea of stretching should come at the end of an activity. So when you come back, say from a run, or you come back from a game, then you stretch. It's really not a good idea to stretch before you do something, because your muscles are cold. You're much more likely to damage them than you would at the end of a routine, because you need the blood flow, you need the warm tissues, you need everything working properly to do a proper stretch sequence. So what I'm going to do with you now is the stretch sequence I use every day. And because I'm always working on my splits and things like that, I won't go into full splits now today, but I'll show you a routine that will take you there. And don't think the splits are an end in themselves. The forward splits, not going to side splits. The forward splits, that's stretching your hamstrings, that's stretching your hip flexors, that's fantastic stretching that you can do. So I'm going to I have blocks here that I'm going to use that will really help with this. But you don't have to have blocks or anything like that. You can use a couple of books, or you can fold over your mat, or you can use a cushion. And I'll show you how I begin with this. So I usually put 2 blocks, one to either side, and I usually put a block back there behind for my knee, and that's to preserve my knee. But if you don't have blocks like I do, right, you can use a cushion to go there instead of your blocks. I'm just used to using a block, so that's what I'll do. So I get my mat straight here. I don't like anything out of line. So your block goes there, and I'm using these 2 ones then as a kind of support for me. So I'm going to stretch my quads first. So when I come down here, I take my knee into the wall and I stretch my quad. So that's a good stretch, right? It's a good quad stretch. If you can't get back there like I am, then you can come out further from the wall. You don't need to go back the whole way. So you can come out a little bit further, or you can take your knee out a little bit further. But this is the max stretch that I can get on my quad. So this is the quadricep muscles here at the front of your thigh. And I would usually hang out here. This is stretching now. So I would hang out here maybe for sometimes a minute, sometimes 2 minutes. Well, actually, I wouldn't hang out that way this time. I would be hanging out with my back against the wall, because that's a better stretch. Because you can feel I'm actually taking the weight off it there. But when I back up like this, that's really working on my quad, really stretching out my quad. And then if I want to shift that from a quad stretch to a hip flexor stretch, the psoas muscle here, then I will inch that foot out along, and I will drop into my hip flexor stretch. And you can see that's quite a deep stretch. So my foot is still up against the wall, my knee is still against the wall, and now I can hang out and I can chat to people going around the place or whatever, and really I'm deep into my hip flexor here. So I've been stretching my quad and my hip flexor on the right, and now I want to stretch my hamstring on the right, and this is where I'll use my blocks. So I use the blocks, and I always would have a pair of socks on here because it's easier to slide when you have a pair of socks on. So I would slide my leg out, and that's a hamstring stretch. So my foot flex back towards me. So that's quad, hip flexor, hamstrings. Okay. And when I lift myself back up out of that, I would stand up, and then I shake my muscles, right? Because you need to release them, and that just takes all the tension out of them. And then I will then practice my split squat, or my splits. So I've warmed them up, and now I'm just going to slide. Now I'm not going to take you down into full splits, but I'll take you a good bit of the way. So you come right down. And then you have your hamstring to the front, your hip flexor and quad to the back. And I'm just using the blocks here. So this is quite a deep stretch. So I'm not fully down, as you can see, because I'm not warmed up enough to do that, because I haven't done my full routine of warm-uppy stuff yet. And then I'm going to just lift out of it and come back up. And then I'm just going to shake my muscles out again. And then I'm going to do the same on the left side, and I'll just do it with you again so as you can see. So this time, I was stretching the left quad that time. So this time I put my block back in here, my knee on that. And then, so just notice where you're better. So I've better stretch on my right quad than my left, but I have a better stretch on my, the other way around. So I've tighter hamstring on my left-hand side, and I always then go for the right first. So just play around with this. So in this one, you want to get your back up against the wall if you can. Doesn't matter if you can't, you can be a little bit further out of this. And again, I'm not holding it for as long as I would hold this in a normal warm-up sequence for the splits. I would hold this for a minute, maybe 2 minutes. Just to make sure that it was stretching properly. And then I would just lift myself out of that, and I would come down into my hip flexor stretch, and then just relax into that. So you can really relax into this one. There's no way that this is ever going to be too much. So again, 2 minutes here. So I would even put my hand to my left glute or right glute and push it down a bit so that I get a little deeper into my hip flexor. And then, if I want to take this a little further, and always, if you know that one side of your body is tighter than the other, or one set of hamstrings are tighter than the other, just be careful with them. So I'm always, easing gently. Oh, it's not too bad today. I ease gently into my left one. And just see how it's feeling today. And just relax into this. And again, I would be holding this for about a minute or 2 minutes, if I really want to do a proper splits workout. And then to come out of that, then I would come out of it, and I would take the back block away, and then sometimes I stand up again and just, shake out. So this is a really, really interesting thing to do. So you're allowing the muscles to shake from their origins and insertions, and also from the bones themselves. That's a way of relaxing too. And then I would slip down into my squat or my splits on this side. So I'm not as deep on my left. I can feel that hamstring is just that little bit tighter. So just easing into it. And I'm using the blocks for support today because that takes a little bit of my upper body weight. And that's because I haven't warmed up properly for this. I would never just drop into the splits. Not at my age, I don't think. And I see gymnasts and all that doing it, but I'm not one of those, right? So I'm careful with my body. I look after it. I take care of it. And I don't challenge it in ways that I don't think it'll be able for. And then I come up out of that. I'm always, just rattling out of it, shaking out of it, making sure that that's okay. So that's my lower body. That's my, I've stretched my hip flexors, my quads, my hamstrings. That's my whole lower body. And I've one other area that I want to take a little bit of care of, and this is the whole side of my body. So I'm going to come into pigeon pose. So I can take my socks off for this. The socks are really useful because they slide, where sometimes your skin won't slide as easily on the mat. So to come into this stretch, I would lift up my right leg, bring my right knee into my right shoulder, or sorry, my right elbow, and stretch my left leg out behind me. And I don't have enough mobility here in my hips to get that leg up parallel with the top of the mat. That doesn't matter. The thing that matters is that that right foot is flexed. And then my left leg is stretched out behind me, and then take my body down and stretch my arms forward. So you may not come down the whole way here. What you're trying to do is to bring both hips to the mat evenly. So you don't want to be all up at one side and down at the other. And I'm stretching out the outside of my quad or my glutes here. I'm really getting into the TFL, all that area. It's all a wide hip stretch. And then to come out of that, I would press into my hands, curl my left toes under and stretch back up. And then lift your left leg, left knee to left wrist, and then slide your body back. So again, I'm taking that left hip, you can see it better here, I'm taking that left hip to the mat, and then I'm stretching out. And again, I'm only holding these for a couple of seconds. Ideally, you should be in this for a minute or 2 minutes, moving around on it, maybe moving your arms around, just doing all kinds of different things with it. Maybe coming up and stretching out through your other leg. So all kinds of things you can do with this. But ideally holding it here. And then pressing into your hands to lift yourself up. And then curl your toes under. And one of the best back stretches is downward facing dog. Just pressing into your heels, pressing into your hands, lifting your sit bones high. Really, really good. And now let's open your hips. So lift your right leg up, bend your knee, and stack your right knee over your left. And then drop it down. And let's lift the other one. Bend and open. And then straighten. And now a little bit of work for your shoulders. So we need to open up, allow them to roll. So just keeping a mobility in the shoulders. And then sometimes I do it with, a little bit of arm movement like that, and then coming it back in the opposite direction. And just getting into little nooks and crannies in my stretching. I mean, I might do other stuff as well, maybe take my arms across my body, just depending on how my body was feeling on any one day. And then maybe stretching. But I would be holding these for a little longer now than I'm holding them now in a routine. And then to the other side. And then that's basically it. So that's a little, stretching routine at the end of your session, particularly for the legs. So if I've been back squatting or I've been deadlifting in the gym, I will always do those stretches afterwards. Really holding them for, particularly the walled ones that I did and the ones that lead up to split squats or splits. Then I would definitely be doing a lot of work on my legs, and I do a lot of work on my legs, and then upper body, and then your spine and your core and everything as well. So all of that, stretching is really, really important in terms of, how you take care of your body afterwards. But remember, like I said at the beginning, you need to be warm to stretch. So don't stretch before a routine, don't stretch before an activity, stretch afterwards. And if you're only going to stretch, then warm up before you stretch. It doesn't have to be a huge warm up, but you have to do something. So enjoy your stretching, because, being fit and healthy takes a little bit of time and thought. So I've done mobility work with you, we've started to do some strength work, and now we're doing the stretching. So you need to do all of it. Right, in various combinations, but the two things that I would never leave out in any training sessions I do, I wouldn't leave out my warm-up and I wouldn't leave out my cool-down stretching. Both of them, and your workout is sandwiched in between those two things. Anyway, enjoy that stretching. There's so many different stretching things I could do, but the one that the best one I did, I think, from my point of view, and I do it myself every day, is the quads, hamstrings and hip flexors stretching with my leg up against the wall. Anyway, enjoy, and always, you know, you can ask me questions in the little chat down below anytime you feel like it, and I will respond. It might take me a day or two before I catch up with them, but I certainly will. And I've already started to modify and change my videos in response to little comments and requests that I've had. So if you want something that I'm not doing, or you want me to do something else, then please do ask. Anyway, nice to be on the mat with you, and see you next time. So that's it. There's our little stretching routine. It's not everything. It's my version of the way I stretch, and I stretch on a regular basis. I mean, regular as in every single workout. I will stretch afterwards. And as I said at the beginning, you don't stretch before your workout, you stretch at the end of your workout. And the reason for stretching is that you bring length back into the muscle, because we need our muscles to be strong, but we also need them to be capable of lengthening. So we don't want muscles to shorten, because remember, say for instance you you sit a lot and you shorten your hip flexors. There, right? They're going to pull on your back and you're going to get backache. So you need to keep your muscles at their level of stretching, and a lot of what we do in modern life doesn't allow us to have our muscles healthily stretched, let's say. So these little routines that I've just included in that video, have fun with them, play around with your own version of them, but do include your stretching into your day at some stage in your day, but always after you've done something active. So enjoy that stretching routine. I'll do other stretching routines as we go through, but that's it for today. Okay, see you next time.